You know, I keep telling A24 to stop making good films, but they will not do it. You know what? That's a good thing. So let's talk about it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Past Lives, the newest film from director Celine Song. So, Past Lives is this new A24 film that premiered at Sundance. It's about two young kids who eventually are played by Greta and Teo Yo, who basically are separated from each other at a very young age. Greta Lee's family ends up moving to Canada to basically give her a better life. He ends up doing the typical South Korea thing in the military and then becoming a successful businessman. But in the process, they meet 15 years later during college, they reconnect, and they start to drift apart once again. And then we find ourselves in the current day. Of course, Greta Lee's now a successful writer, married to this character played by John Magaro. And Teo Yo's character decides he's also successful. He's going to go to New York to reconnect with her. Maybe there'll be something that happens out of that. In the process, everything, it ends up being a story about how two lives separated at a very young age still can find some spark there, some connection, but because of the forces of their lives and how everything is pushed forward, they can no longer be in that world where they can be a thing, an item, or that type of thing. They are just in two different places of their life, and it shows how there's still a spark, there's still a connection, but there's still a lot of heartbreak and melancholy when it comes to just the realization that things just don't work out the way they think. And they both had to come to that realization by the end of this movie in that type of scenario. So it's very much kind of a realistic approach to what life and adulthood and so on and so forth ends up bringing us and whatnot. So with that said, this was a critical darling at, of course, Sundance Film Festival. It was a huge hit. Unfortunately, it was not streaming, so I had no chance of watching it, but I heard all the critical acclaim. I got picked up by A24, who is one of my favorite studios on the market. You know, I talked about all the time about how good they were last year with all the films they put out, but it's a film that I heard a lot about. I didn't know much about it, but I heard a lot about it. And it's also a film that I heard about this on a podcast that is very much in line from what I've seen of something like the Before Sunset or Sunrise type of film, where it's about two individuals reconnecting after a certain amount of time. But so with that said, I'm all about that. You know, I love ideas of like humanistic approaches and stuff like that. I love that Before trilogy. So I was like, you know what? I want to see this. I was able to see it a week and a half early. I'm now posting my review for this film as the day this movie releases. And yeah, this is my perfect type of movie. For my honest review, this is one of the best films I've seen this year, which is already becoming crowded, 6 months into the year. This is a film with a very humanistic approach, a very realistic approach. It's one of the strongest directorial efforts or directorial debuts from a person, in the market. That I've seen in quite a while, and it's just a very powerful film with a very melancholy experience that hits home. I mean, we all have had this experience, or at least most of us had this experience, where individuals that we fell in love with or we think we fell in love with kind of drift apart and we kind of go our separate ways, or people that we're good friends with go separate ways. And it basically boils down to what happens when that transition happens to people and they kind of see things in a different realm, in a different light. How do we kind of get out of the justification of our past? We're always looking back at our past. And that's what this movie does in spades. It's a movie that is taking on full feelings and thrusting it into your heart and melding into it and just justifying that things don't happen the way you want them to happen. Even if you want them to happen now, it's never going to be the same. You know, if I try to go back and find a friend or find, somebody I used to date, it's probably not going to work out because there are, things have changed, things have happened. It's 40 years ago or 50, 30 years ago, however old you are. It's just that the way it is. And that's what this movie portrays in spades and does very, very well. And it doesn't hurt that the performances are absolutely amazing. I think Greta Lee and Teo Yo are Oscar-worthy performances. I think John Magaro is that very conflicted individual who does a nice job of portraying that, and just how conflicted he is with the fact that, Teo's character is a very attractive individual that could sweep Greta Lee's off her feet, and they have a history together. Of course, Greta Lee and Teo's character in the movie, and that conflict plays out really well, and just kind of nature of like how uncomfortable it can really be. I think this movie is absolutely expertly shot. It's beautiful. You get the real scope of two individuals against this massive backdrop of the New York skyline. And it's just a movie with a very powerful look into how people grow apart and how people have to justify that growing apart, and how people have to come to the realization that maybe it's for the better, maybe it's not. Maybe the old feelings are there and you can't like control it. And you know, it's shown throughout this entire movie up until the end. When it hits you in the gut, it makes you want to cry. And I did cry a little bit in this movie because it really does give you a sense of just how powerful human connection is throughout our entire life, and it does it in spades. So yeah, with that said, I absolutely just love this movie. I really do. It's a very powerful, very beautiful, very well shot, just absolutely riveting movie that runs for only for like an hour and 45 minutes, but you feel every crevice, every sense, every just look, and every heartbreak and every joy that these characters go through. And it's one of the best of the years. I hope it gets an Oscar. I hope it gets a bunch of Oscar nominations and is another winner for A24, who seems to pick out great indie films, great independent films, as well as, you know, producing and financing. It's just absolutely riveting, fantastic look into human psychology. So with that said, that's gonna be my look at this film, Past Lives, which as of this review is now in theaters and will be on VOD, I'm sure, in the next month or so. But definitely give it a check out. It is very melancholy, so it can be quite sad to watch, but it is definitely worth a watch. So, and with that said, that's my take on Past Lives. Thank you so much for watching. Comments below if you've seen this movie. What do you think? What's your favorite like human look into the world of growing up and stuff like that? Let me know in the comments as well. But if you like this video, awesome. Hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell. Top the fun's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.